I'm a 28-year-old guy, and I thought I had my life pretty much together. I have a decent job, live in a nice apartment, and until recently, I had a girlfriend, let's call her C, whom I genuinely thought I'd marry one day. We'd been together for nearly 3 years. Our relationship wasn't perfect, no relationship ever is, but I was committed. I trusted her, or at least I used to. But for the past few months, something felt off. You know that gut feeling that whispers something's not right, but you don't have any proof? That was exactly what I was feeling. C started acting weird with her phone, always keeping it close, tilting the screen whenever she'd text. She suddenly had all these work trips and girls' weekends popping up out of nowhere, but when I asked her for details, she'd get defensive. At first, I didn't want to push. You try to be a good boyfriend, not the paranoid type who checks up on his girlfriend all the time. I convinced myself I was just overthinking things. But the nagging feeling wouldn't go away, and eventually, I decided to check our joint bank account. We'd opened it together when we started saving for a house. I figured if something was going on, it might show up there. Then one day, I noticed it $3,000 withdrawn in a single transaction. No heads up, no explanation. I tried to stay calm, not wanting to jump to conclusions, so I brought it up casually. Hey babe, what's up with this $3,000 withdrawal? Did you buy something big? I asked. She didn't even look up from her phone. Oh yeah, I booked a girls' trip with M and T. She replied like it was no big deal. I stared at her, trying to keep my voice steady. A girls' trip? You didn't mention that. She rolled her eyes, clearly annoyed. I didn't think I needed to give you a play-by-play of my plans. That hit me like a slap in the face. I wasn't asking her to account for every little thing, but $3,000 was a big deal, especially when we were supposed to be saving for a house. It's just that's a lot of money, see? And we're supposed to be saving, remember? Now she looked at me like I was the crazy one. We'll make it back. Relax, it's not the end of the world. The way she brushed it off just made me angrier, but I bit my tongue and let it slide. Maybe I was overreacting, I thought. Maybe she just needed a break, and I shouldn't make a big deal out of it. But that night, I couldn't sleep. Something about it felt wrong. So, I did something I'd never done before in our entire relationship. I went through her phone. I wasn't proud of it, but sometimes you just know when someone's lying. And sure enough, there was a whole thread of texts, emails, and confirmations, flights, hotel bookings, everything. She wasn't going on a girls' trip. She was going on vacation with her ex. My heart sank as I stared at the screen, my stomach twisting. It wasn't even about the money anymore. It was the betrayal, the lies. I had trusted her, and she just threw it all away. I could have confronted her right then, but something inside me snapped. I wanted her to feel that same gut-wrenching panic. So, I waited. I acted like everything was normal, like I didn't know a thing. I even kissed her goodbye when she left for her girls' trip the next morning, telling her to have fun. As soon as she walked out the door, I went straight to my laptop and froze our joint bank account. I wasn't thinking about whether it was the right thing to do. I was hurt, and I wanted her to feel that hurt. If she was going to betray me like that, I was going to make sure she knew it wasn't going to be an easy escape. A few hours later, my phone rang. It was her, and she was furious. "What the hell did you do?" she screamed as soon as I picked up. I leaned back in my chair, trying to hide the satisfaction in my voice. "What are you talking about? My card's getting declined everywhere. What did you do to the account?" "Oh, I froze it," I replied calmly. "Thought that was the least I could do after finding out you're on vacation with your ex." There was silence on her end, just her breathing, until she finally sputtered. "It's not what you think." "Cut the crap, C. I read everything, the emails, the texts. You lied to me. You've been planning this for weeks." She stammered, trying to piece together an excuse, but I didn't let her finish. "Why?" I asked, my voice harder than I intended. "If you wanted to be with him, why didn't you just leave me?" "I didn't want to hurt you," she started, and that's when I laughed, cold, bitter, and hollow. It didn't even sound like me. "You didn't want to hurt me? So you lie, steal our money, and go on a vacation with your ex. That was your plan to avoid hurting me?" There was a pause, and then her tone shifted. She dropped the guilt act and went straight to defense. "You know what? Maybe if you weren't so obsessed with saving for that stupid house, I wouldn't have had to do this. You're so focused on the future, you forgot about me." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She was trying to make this my fault, that I'd somehow forced her into sneaking around with her ex. What are you talking about? You couldn't have just talked to me? Told me how you were feeling instead of lying to my face. She sighed, exasperated, as if I was the one making things difficult. You just don't get it? I needed space. I needed time to think. With him, you needed space from me? With your ex? I clenched my jaw, trying to keep from shouting. How does that even make sense? He's just a friend, she snapped, her voice defensive. You're blowing this way, out of proportion, right? Just a friend. That's why you lied and snuck around. She fell silent. I could almost feel her thinking, trying to spin this into something that made sense. But I wasn't going to listen anymore. We're done, I said, finally breaking the silence. Wait, what? You're breaking up with me over this? She asked, her voice incredulous, as if she hadn't expected any consequences. You lied. You used our money to go on a secret trip with your ex. What did you think was going to happen? You can't just leave me stranded here, she yelled, panic creeping into her voice. How am I supposed to get home? I felt nothing for her in that moment. No sympathy, no guilt. Just cold, hard reality. Not my problem, I replied. You made your choices. Now deal with the consequences. And I hung up before she could say another word. The days that followed were a blur. I moved out of the apartment, got my name off the lease, and canceled all the bills in my name. I blocked her on everything: phone, social media, email. I wasn't going to give her any more access to my life. I was done. A couple of weeks later, I found out she'd been telling people I had abandoned her, left her stranded without a penny to her name. She was playing the victim, making herself out to be the one who was wronged. When a mutual friend told me, I laughed. It was classic C. She always knew how to spin things, no matter how deep she was in the wrong. I set the record straight with those who asked, telling them the whole story: the lies, the ex, the money. Some were shocked, others not so much. They knew her and had seen this side of her before. Most people sided with me, but a few still believed her sob story. Whatever. I wasn't about to waste any more energy on her drama. In the end, it hurt, but not in the way I'd expected. It wasn't losing her that stung the most. It was realizing that the person I thought I knew never really existed. She'd been wearing a mask, and I'd been too blind to see it. But here's the thing. People will show you who they are eventually. You just have to pay attention. And when they do, you can either ignore it, hoping they'll change, or you can do what I did, walk away. Since then, I haven't heard much about C. Last I knew, she was couch surfing because she couldn't afford rent. Apparently, she tried to get the money back from the trip, but the flights and hotel were non-refundable. I guess that's what happens when you blow $3,000 on a lie. Part of me wonders if her ex even stuck around or if she ended up left high and dry. But honestly, I don't really care. What I learned from all of this is that you can't control what other people do. You can only control how you respond. When someone shows you who they really are, when they lie, cheat, manipulate, you have to be willing to walk away, no matter how much it hurts in the moment. Staying in something like that will only destroy you in the long run. Sure, I'm pissed that I wasted years of my life on her, but I'm more pissed at myself for ignoring the signs. The truth is, the writing was on the wall long before I found those texts. I just didn't want to see it. I kept telling myself she was better than that she wouldn't do something like this. But I was wrong. People don't change just because you want them to. And sometimes, the only way forward is to cut them off completely.